Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Anthony Bennett, and I'm a Liberty University graduate student, and I am a first sergeant in the United States Air Force. Today's video is going to be on the subject of group dynamics, and it is concerning first sergeants. First sergeant is an advisor to the commander, much like a counselor is to an executive president or someone of an organization. We advise on a myriad of issues, from human resources to pay to counseling of all sorts, career counseling, and we have a lot of interaction with the airmen or troops, which can be anywhere from 100 to 500 people. On a more scholastic note, we talked about quite a few things. We, meaning the group of my fellow first sergeants who allowed me to have this conversation with them. It served a purpose of what does a first sergeant do? What is the true purpose of a first sergeant, and why do we do it? And it also served the purpose of allowing me to lead the group. I am the vice president of the First Sergeant Council, so it was fairly easy. We already had a rapport, and we just kind of got into it. It took place at our commander's conference room on Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, and we started off with rounds, and we started off with introductions, and we started off with merely me just giving some ground rules about being respectful towards each other, which they already know because we are the standard bearers in our respective different units. We talked about respecting and not cutting each other off, and even throughout, after the explanation, I was able to bring some people back into the conversation where it seemed like it would go off the rails, so to speak. What we did was talk about the pros of being the first sergeant, the cons. What would it take for a new first sergeant? Who does not deserve, or who should not be a first sergeant? And we talked about some random topics just to see if there was something at the end. The session lasted about just about an hour 10, an hour 20 minutes. I planned it to last just about an hour, but I knew that it would go over because we are all type A, type B type folks, to be more specific. So it's kind of like not herding cats, but herding lions. So we all are purposeful in our vision, and we take care of the airmen and our commander. So we're the key advisors, somewhat of like a prophet to a king. With that being said, we talked about the pros and the cons, and people had some very good information to share with each other. There was a lot of cohesion that took place. It was a interesting meet because this is not something that we do on a regular basis, so much to the point where it is a group session. We normally have a group meeting every Thursday, and we stay behind and talk about different legal issues on how to help our folks and how to help them separate from the military or help them stay in the military. But in that, there was a lot of group norms. There was a lot of brainstorming that took place, that not necessarily about a project we're going to do, but how we were interacting inside the meeting itself. So it was diverse. It had an Asian woman in there, a Caucasian male, African American, myself, and a myriad of different issues. There was no social loafing. There was no one just taking advantage of other people conversating, and people weren't left out. And the more I clarified the purpose, the more we stayed on track. So again, there were no dyads, there were no triads or anything like that. I led the meeting myself, but again, talking to a group of lions, you feel like that you feel like you never know who the leader is. But I made it clear through watching the clock and telling them that I'm trying to be mindful of their time and asking them all types of intriguing questions. I think the highlight that I would remember specifically from this is some of the quotables. Now, the first sergeant is the person inside a unit that is the person that has the answer or will find the answer. And someone said, ventingly, we are not the easy button. And if you really understood, if you know any military friends and ask them what the first sergeant does, tell them that and see what their response is. We are not the easy button. Even though that's our job, there are some folks that totally disregard the fact that they have a supervisor and they come straight to the first sergeant. Anyway, again, with the myriad of questions we had a lot of help. There was, not necessarily an introvert in there, but we definitely pulled out anyone who would be the most likely introvert. In addition to that, what I believe that came out of this and what I would do in the future session is ensure that there's more time. I would probably set the time for a 2-hour time span because it was really good conversation that kind of it sprouted off into other conversations. Even at the end of the conversation, there was one person who had something beneficial to add. So typically, like in our reading material, it says that we probably should cut it off and save it for the next session. But it was beneficial and everyone agreed. So we talked about that. I really believe that based on this session and other things that I would do this again, and I'd want to do this after the degree, leading groups and having one-on-ones, somewhat like Lucy from the Peanuts cartoon, where she offered advice for 5 cents. And, just any random person will come up and talk about anything. I'd like to do that in a group session and see how it happens. It was a really open discussion, and we talked shop a lot. And we, of course, did some word recognition and things of that nature. But for the most part, I believe it was a really, really, really good brainstorming session. So again, without going into too many more details, it was a great session, and it closed out really well, and everyone was very grateful. Again, my name is Anthony Bennett, and I'm a Liberty University student, and this was my my group for the discussion. Thanks.